So my name is Todd Windisch. I'm an ESL instructor at Cal State Fullerton's ALP program at San Antonio College and Saddleback College. So I'm kind of all over the place, but I work with both credit and non-credit students. My presentation is about LGBT students specifically. A few people might have questions about what that means. Most of us probably know LGBT as lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender. It's the most common acronym to describe this population. But sometimes we see a longer acronym. It's becoming more popular. You might see something like LGBTQ, LGBTQIA. And I'm here to inform you of what that means. We have lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender. Q can mean queer, or it could mean questioning, right? Not sure, in an in-between state. I meaning intersex. And then A can have two meanings as well. It can mean asexual, or in the case of my presentation, I want to invite you to think of the A as allies. Right? When you hear about the LGBT community, you might think of that as a separate community, something that might not concern you or that you don't, encounter in your everyday life. But you can be part of this community by being an ally and helping your students who are part of this community. Now, why did I choose this topic? Well, it is my experience as well as an LGBT student and as a teacher. And so it's something that I have encountered in my personal life. And when I was taking the TESOL 540 class here at ALP, or not ALP, the MS TESOL program, Dr. Iring's class on teaching adult ESL issues and options, we had a project where we had to design a curriculum for a CBO, a community-based organization. Many community-based organizations are based around churches. And in my case, I thought I would design a program for LGBT students at an LGBT center. Specifically the Center OC in Santa Ana, California. So I designed a curriculum, found the center. Did I implement this curriculum at the center? No, I did not. It just didn't work out for me in that way. However, through my research, I did find that this population might be bigger than a lot of people anticipate, and that there might be needs that aren't being met in the regular classroom for these students. So that's what I'm going to be presenting today. When I made this curriculum, I kind of designed it around 3 points. I designed it around language, culture, and civics. And if you look at those 3 major topics, those are really common topics in most non-credit ESL classes, right? You want to teach language, we often teach culture, and we often teach civics of some kind, and that's often mandated in a lot of classes. So a curriculum for an LGBT center or an LGBT-centered program is not that different from a standard curriculum. So why do they need this special program? I found that students need this special program because they might not be getting the instruction they need in a regular class. I'm going to introduce this quote from an article by King that really drove my research, and it reads as follows. Enabling adults to experience the greatest opportunities for growth and learning entails active learning and learner-centered environments. Yet even in these rich, interactive settings, many LGBTQ adults still hang back from full participation, authentic engagement, or disclosure of their sexual identity. This reticence and marginalization matters because our understanding of adult learners tells us learning must reach the needs, values, and beliefs of people in order for them to be fully engaged in reflection, critical thinking, and consideration of different world views. Now, why is this really important? If you read this quote, you might find that students need to be participating in the class to get the most out of that class. If we have an LGBT student in a class where they feel like they might not be welcomed, or they feel like they might be judged by other people, they might not be able to participate fully. They can't engage in the class, and they might not be able to learn as well, and their English acquisition will be infringed upon. So that's why this special program I designed would be specifically meeting their needs. However, we can do things in a regular class to help these students as well. To kind of understand this need a little bit closer, I want to do a little test. I've never tried this before, all right? But this is a common question in an ESL class, right? What did you do this weekend? Or what did you do last weekend? Usually the first question on Monday. So just do me a favor, turn to somebody near you real quick and tell the person, what did you do last weekend? Right? Now, I wanted to do the lights, but it didn't work. Now, try this again. Well, I'm not going to ask you to try it again, but what you responded, you probably talked about the people that you did things with, the plans that you had. Imagine being an LGBT student trying to conceal that they're LGBT. You can't mention your partner, the person that you did things with. You can't mention the TV shows you watch, maybe. You probably can't mention the magazines you read, the places where you socialize. There's a lot of things that they're going to be hiding and not sharing, thus not producing the same amount of language as somebody who doesn't have these issues. So moving on to the numbers, right? How prevalent is this issue? You might be thinking, I don't even have LGBT students in my class. Well, a couple of numbers might surprise you. One, there's at least 267,000 adult undocumented LGBT people in the United States. And according to this article by Gates, he took 3 sources. He took the Pew Research Hispanic Center Gallup Daily's Tracking Survey and the U.S. Census Bureau's American Community Survey, and he estimated some numbers. Of course, this is estimates because we can't know for sure. But there's about 904,000 total LGBT adult immigrants in the United States. 70% of those being documented and 30% of those being undocumented. These numbers pretty much match the percentage of total foreign-born population, being 40.4 million, and that is 28% undocumented, 72% documented. So there's a pretty even match between the percentage of LGBT immigrants and the total percentage being documented or undocumented. Now, who are these? What nationalities are they? Well, for the undocumented population, about 71% are Hispanic, 15% are Asian, the rest falling in Black and White or European. And then for the documented ones, we have about 30% Hispanic and 35% Asian. That might be a little bit surprising, as was the research that in the documented there's a higher percentage of Asian LGBT students. Now, also in this research we found that LGBT students tend to be male and they tend to be younger. Where these numbers exactly came from or why, that needs some more research. This is not exactly the most researched section, and we do have a long way to go to learn more about this. From here, from the numbers, I kind of want to introduce how we can better serve them, right? Because there are a lot, and we need to do something. So these are my best practices, some tips, some advice for you guys to make your classroom more inviting and to engage your students in some critical thinking. So number one, I think everybody should educate themselves. For me, it's if a student comes up to me and asks me, I saw the word transgender, what does the word transgender mean? I have a stock answer because everybody comes to me and my family and asks me what transgender means. I'm very familiar with the community. But you might not encounter that too often. So on your handouts, oh, I have handouts here. I thought somebody was going to pass them out. On your handouts, I do have a website. It's a PFLAG website, and it is an FAQ that might be able to help you with some of the common questions that you get. PFLAG is an organization for parents and friends and allies of lesbians and gays. Some of these questions, number 13, are transgender people gay? Could you answer this question really easily? Are transgender people gay? Not necessarily. Someone has an answer, right? They're not. If you click on there, transgender people can be straight, gay, asexual. It can be any number of things. All right? So this could be a good resource for you. Why is it important to educate yourself? Well, in the classroom, you are a resource. A lot of students are coming from cultures where homosexuality is criminalized, or it is frowned upon, or opposed, or suppressed. They might be from a culture where it just isn't talked about, right? So they don't have any idea. And as the American culture expert in your classroom, they might be coming to you with questions. And I think it's important to know these questions because answering them intelligently fosters an atmosphere of respect. Another thing you can do is create an inclusive classroom. How can you do this? Well, your attitude leads the class. And I think we all know that in an ESL class, we all want an atmosphere of respect, right? Everybody respects everybody else's culture. And so I think we should just continue this and make it stronger and include LGBT with all those other cultures that we respect. Another thing is that we can address issues as they arise. So for example, I had a student come up to me, we were talking about strange American traditions. And one of my students says, oh, gay marriage is a strange American tradition. And I mean, I took that opportunity, I didn't brush it off, I took this as a teaching opportunity. And actually another student kind of laughed at her, right? And said, ha 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 ha. And my first instinct is saying, no, don't laugh, it's a perfectly acceptable question, right? We're all going to have a discussion here. You know, it's not a tradition, etc., etc., etc. I tried to explain myself. Another opportunity is, one of my vocabulary words is orientation. In reading about military orientation. Take this opportunity, talk about sexual orientation. Or, a lot of my students like to refer to themselves as, I am a Chinese, right? We use the adjective as a noun. When I kind of inform them, you should probably use an adjective instead of the noun, because if you say something like he is a black or he is a gay, it could come off very offensive in some ways. So, not shying away from these opportunities to introduce gay language in the class will create an environment of respect and open dialogue. The last option that you can do, and this is kind of an extreme option, is, of course, you can put a sign on your door saying that you're an ally or that this is a safe space so that students can feel free to come and talk to you about things. The last thing I have is probably a little bit more on the extreme side and might be more suited for an academic classroom or maybe a university setting. But there are actually activities that you can implement in the classroom. Number one is, I would say, don't shy away from controversial topics in your classroom. I find that a lot of teachers are a little bit worried about stepping on people's toes. But I think that if we encourage friendly debates in a respectful manner, just this dialogue alone will enlighten a lot of people about things that they're not currently thinking about. In my classes today, we had a discussion about legalizing marijuana. I have my students write an essay on euthanasia. And it's not just LGBT things, it's everything, because we can share ideas in that way. One thing I would say about the friendly debates, though, is that before all of my friendly debates, I make sure that I give a vocabulary lesson about politely disagreeing. So use this opportunity to teach vocab, things like, I beg to differ, I'm afraid I disagree, right? Some of these stock phrases to politely disagree with somebody and not really offend them. Another thing is talk about what's in the news. Here I have pictures of Caitlyn Jenner and North Carolina. Just the other day I had some of my students in my class talking about, oh, North Carolina, men can go in women's restrooms, something, 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 right? A little bit, I mean, they were getting it, but a little bit uninformed. So, I mean, taking that opportunity to teach students about these current events and giving them background is really important. Reading a headline is not going to give them the full story, especially where they got that headline from. And with their limited culture and English skills, they might be missing some of the important points there. So providing background is really important. And then the last thing is, of course, you can use LGBT-specific materials in the classroom. For example, this is a website, and I included it on the handout as well. It's a resource that has some activities, some conversation questions, a reading comprehension article about gay soldiers in the military, you know, different things like that. So you can find articles online that you can actually use in the class. One thing I recommend is conversation questions. And if you're teaching a grammar-focused class, tie it into grammar, right? So say something like you're teaching conditionals. What would you do if your friend came out, right? Something like that, to encourage using the grammar in answering these questions. And of course, there's other lesson plans, articles, and things you can find online. One particularly successful article I found was from a TOEFL textbook, the Oxford Preparation for the TOEFL, I believe. And they have a whole scientific article on gender identity, sexuality, explaining the science behind it, right? And I found that really successful, and it created a great dialogue in my class. So overall, I would just say, you know, don't shy away from these things. Try to create an atmosphere where you're including everybody in the class, and create an open dialogue so that students feel welcome and that they can express themselves to the best of their ability and learn English to the best of their ability. And that's it. Thank you.